Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and cheers. I'm sitting here with my throat coat tea because I have a sore throat and a cold actually, and it is offensive to me that I have a cold, but I have a cold, so I'm just, dealing with it. Yogi tea of course always has a little aphorism on its tag, so here we have speak the truth. Well, this tea will help me speak the truth. I think it's this weird ass weather that's made the cold happen, because today it's kind of a bit gloomy and dull and damp. Other days it's boiling hot. It's just constantly humid and damp at the moment and not very nice. And I know it's not really weather that causes the cold, by the way. I know it's germs, but I think the germs just have a big old party when the weather is like this. And anyway, they're partying in my throat at the moment, so you'll excuse me, I hope, if I snort and hackle and cough and just generally make disgusting noises in this video, but hopefully the tea will help me to be able to speak to you and still sound human. Actually, look, something else that might help is if I set some lovely smellies going. It might help or it might hinder actually. But look, this is a new soapstone burner with a mesh top that I got. Partly because I saw that Simon from Hermit's Cave had it, and I thought, oh, I'm going to give that a go. And the way that it works is these are little incense stones, or sacred stones they call them, and you just light a little candle and put it under them, and then they release, it's not like smoke, it's like smokeless incense. They release a kind of vapour to start with, and then they just, after they release their vapour for a bit, then what happens after that is it just releases a kind of general kind of nice smell. Oh, here we go. The vapour is beginning. They're just little wisps. Can you see that? Little wisps of smoke coming up. It's not even smoke. It is vapour. It's kind of nice. Yeah, that's quite nice. It might make me cough in a bit, of course, but I'll give it a go anyway. Put that there with the lovely little cat. And so why have I come on today? I've come on today because I want to talk about resilience, and I've designed a tarot spread which is all about helping us find our resilience and get in touch with our inner resilience when we need to. And the reason I've done it is because I'm dealing with an issue at the moment, a house-related issue, which is doing my head in, I have to say, and it's requiring some resilience from me. Now, to put things in perspective, I'm going this afternoon to a funeral, the funeral of the husband of a dear work colleague who passed away very suddenly a couple of weeks ago, and so I'm going to support her. And when you see somebody who's dealing with something like that, then it puts into perspective what you're dealing with. So my issue is not anything like on the scale of a bereavement. However, what it does remind me of is that when you're dealing with an issue, whatever the issue is, even if it is comparatively small in the scheme of things, if it's something that's on your mind constantly, it really is draining, it's really wearing. And so my situation is relating to some work that we need to get done on the house. So my partner and I live in a fairly old house. It's nearly 100 years old now, and it's a very nice house, has lots of lovely features, but it also has some issues in terms of it's not really been very well looked after over the years. And so consequently we're having to now do quite a lot of work to bring it up to spec, and so literally over the next few months we are going to be doing things like having the entire roof replaced. We're having all of the floor downstairs dug up because there's some damp coming through there. We're having the walls stripped back and then replastered. We're having at least one chimney breast removed where there's some damp in that and it's not used, and we might have to have some others dealt with as well. So it's kind of oh, it's really going now. Look at that. Woo! Smoke-a-rooney. Now it'll stop doing that. It's smoking at the moment. I don't know if you can see it. Magic. It's really smoking at the moment, but it's not smoke, it's more like kind of vapor, very fine vapor, and it probably is toxic, so I shouldn't breathe it in. and it'll stop doing that, and then the stones will just release a nice constant gentle aroma as long as the candle's on. So nice. I'm not sure about the scent yet. It's maybe a little bit on the synthetic side, but I think it's natural, but I'm not sure about it yet. Anyway, I'm going to try some resin on it later, so that should be exciting. Where was I? So yeah, so if you've got something that's really bugging you and bothering, oh yeah, I was telling you about the house. So yeah, new roof, new floor. You might be thinking, why don't you just get a new house? But actually, the structure of the house will remain. New roof, new floor, some new chimney, lots of plastering, possible other damp treatments, and also a new kitchen and a new bathroom, and then also a new downstairs water closet, loo thing. So I'm just gearing up for several weeks of disruption. I'm gearing up for several weeks of loud banging, drilling noises and lots of dirt and crap everywhere. And also for there being no kitchen and, you know, having to wash in a bucket and all that kind of stuff because the bathroom's ripped out or something. So I'm gearing up for all of that. That's not really the cause of my stress around this though, and the cause of my stress is more to do with the elements of the house that make it not terribly comfortable. I hope are going to be resolved by this renovation work, but there's no guarantee that they will be, and that's what's stressing me out. So it's that kind of feeling of knowing that something is not right and knowing it needs to be put right, but knowing you can't just put it right by doing something now. You've got to wait until certain things are done and time passes and then you see what the results are. And you can't walk away from it. I mean, I can't just walk away from this house. It's the house that we own, you know, we've got a mortgage on it and all that kind of stuff. So I think for my current sense of anxiety and stress around this, and as I say, in the scheme of things it's not a big issue, but at the same time I'm just being honest with you about what it was that prompted me to work on this spread. The thing for me about it is that feeling of, I'm used to, if I have a problem or something that needs to be solving, I'm used to just solving it. You know, in my job and in my life I tend to take that approach of, oh, there's a problem, right, let's just deal with it, which we are doing with this. But this requires waiting, it requires patience, it requires a kind of faith that things will work out, and then also the underlying subtext of what happens if they don't and what will that mean. And, you know, it's basically just a bit of a rocky road to travel for a relatively short period of time, but a period of time in which I am going to need, I know I'm going to need, all of my reserves of resilience and patience and strength and hopefulness and so on, so that I don't just get really peed off with the whole thing and want to go and live in a tent at the bottom of the garden. Which might not be a bad idea, actually. I might write that down. I'll do it later. So, yeah, so that's really where the idea of looking at resilience came from. Because the thing also about a situation where you know you've got an issue but you can't really deal with it straight away, you've got to just kind of let things run their course, is that is the ideal territory and ground for the monkey mind to start chattering away. Because of course, you know, you start thinking through all the things you could do, and maybe you could do this, maybe you could do that, and maybe that would solve it, maybe that wouldn't solve it, and then you get down a cul-de-sac and you realise you can't actually do anything specific now, and then you start round the whole process again of thinking and thinking and thinking and worrying and stressing and so on. So that made me think, okay, what am I going to do in order to get me through this, and what can I rely on, apart from the obvious things of the support of my friends and my partner and just the fact that we're getting things done and dealt with and so on, and you know, being proactive about the situation. Excuse me while I have another sip of tea. So I came up with the idea of a resilience spread, a resilience tarot spread, and I'm going to explain it to you, and then I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to do a little sample reading of this spread so that you get a sense of how it works, because I hope it will be useful to other people, and it really works when you're dealing with anything that requires resilience from you. So if you're dealing with any kind of difficult intransigent situation, if you're having to work your way through a difficult blockage of some sort, If you are looking for ways of reminding yourself of what your strength is and how you can keep showing up for what can be a challenging situation, this spread is designed to get all of that out on the table so that you can be aware of it and work through it. So here is the spread. There are 9 cards involved. One of them is optional, and I hope you can see that. Can you see that? Let me talk you through it. So what we've got here, resilience spread. Now the first thing I'm suggesting is that you pick a significator. You don't have to do this, but I think it can be quite nice, because then you can work on you could choose a significator to represent yourself in the situation, or you might choose a significator to represent the situation itself. So given my example, because it's about a house, I could pick a card from the tarot deck to represent me, or I could do something like maybe go to a Lenormand deck and pick the house and put that there just as a significator. It doesn't have to be a tarot card, and you need at least 2 decks for this spread. Well, you could do it with 1, but I recommend at least 2, and you can use more. So you could have a significator from one deck, and then you do your reading from another deck, and then that last card at the end you'd use a different deck again. Or you'd use the majors from a tarot deck. Anyway, I'll get to that when we get to it. So you pick your significator if you want to. You don't have to. Once you've picked your significator, you shuffle your cards and you deal out 7 cards. So all these purple ones, first of all. You're going to do that last one later. So the first card represents the energy of the obstacle. So what is the quality of the energy of the obstacle that you're dealing with, or the situation you're dealing with, or the frustration that you're dealing with? In other words, what do you need to know about it? Know your enemy. If that's the thing that's causing you stress and heartache and worry and all this kind of anxiety, what about it? What do you need to know about it? What is its intrinsic energy? What does the tarot need to tell you about your obstacle? That's the first card. Then the second card, and this is based on the kind of the serenity prayer, give me the courage to accept the things I can't change and change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference and all that. So this card is about what do you need to accept, or maybe even attract in this situation. So in other words, what do you need to open up to instead of resisting and fighting against? And you pick a card for that. Then the next one is, what do you need to change or release? So in other words, what do you need to let go and transform? So you pick a card to help you explore that. Now, of course, as I always say, in each of these positions, you can have 1 card, but you could have 2 cards or even 3. I wouldn't recommend more than 3, but if you want to do a little mini reading for each one of these questions, that's absolutely fine. So you pick 1, 2, or 3 cards for each of those. So that was change and release. And then at the bottom here, number 4, you ask, where do I need to focus? Where is it I need to focus in order to be dealing with this situation with the greatest level of equanimity and strength and support and calmness? Where do you need to put your energy? Rather than worrying and having your mind going around all the different options and all the things that could go wrong and all the things that you should try but don't know how to try and blah 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 blah. Where do you need to focus? This is about getting aligned and calm and centered. Where do you need to focus? Then we jump up over here, and here's card number 5, and this one is about what helps you to keep showing up. So what quality, what energy, what attitude, what perspective will keep you showing up in this situation. Bearing in mind, it might be a situation that won't change quickly. Usually when we need resilience, it's because we're in a situation that won't change very quickly. So what helps you to keep showing up? What's the hidden blockage? What is it that's stopping you from being your best self in this situation, but that you don't really know about? What is it that's blocking you but you're not aware of? And then you pull a card or cards for that. And then finally, what is your hidden strength? What is it you have got in you that you maybe aren't aware of yet that you need to know about? What can the cards tell you about what you need to know? Hello, Mr. Magpie. A huge magpie has just landed on the guttering of the house, which is wobbling precariously. That's going to go. Not the magpie, the guttering. So, hidden strength, that's your last card. And then from for this position, number 8, you have a choice. Either you get another tarot deck, or you get an oracle deck, or any deck you like, and you choose an ally card, or you randomly select. Now, if you randomly select, then here's what I'm going to recommend. You could do this with just the majors of the Major Arcana of a tarot deck, by the way. If you're comfortable with all of the majors and have got no problem if death shows up as your ally or the tower shows up as your ally, if you're fine with that, I would be. If you're fine with that, then keep them in. If you're not fine with it, take them out. Or use an oracle deck. Because the idea here is that with the ally card, you want a card that you are going to be able to use as a bit of a touchstone to help you get through this situation. So either you shuffle the Major Arcana and you blind select a card, or you go through it and you choose a card, or the same with an oracle deck. But make sure that whatever card you get for your ally, you can live with. Don't choose a card or allow yourself to be given a card by the process that is going to stress you out even more. And I'm just being really honest here. I know that some people say, oh, that's terrible, you can't just be pulling out cards from the deck. Well, baloney. You know, you can do what you like. This is your spread. And if you want something that's your ally, you need to be comfortable with that ally. Or you need to be comfortable with being challenged. So in my case, even in this situation, if I was to do this spread and I got the tower, you know, doing house refurbishment and you get the tower, how is that an ally? Well, for me, I would just simply tune into what does that tell me about what I need to release in terms of my expectations around all of this, and what is it that needs to be destructured in my psyche in order for me to be open to the best possible outcome. So that is the resilience spread, and you can use it for any topic. So choose your significator if you want. Then, using a tarot deck, 7 cards, energy of the obstacle. What do you need to accept or attract? What do you need to change and release? Where do you need to focus your energy? What will help you to keep showing up? What is the hidden blockage that you're not aware of? And what is the hidden strength you're not aware of? And then, either from the Major Arcana of a tarot deck or from an oracle deck, you either blind select or you go through and choose an ally card that you will use as your touchstone. And this is the card that you can put on your altar, you could carry it with you, you could just remind yourself of, and when you get stressed, you draw on the energy of that ally. You know that you've got it in you, you know you've got it with you, and it is helping you to deal with the situation that you are seeking resilience around. And that, my friends, is my resilience spread. So I'm going to turn the camera around now and we're going to give it a bit of a go. Okay, so I have turned the camera around and I have shuffled my cards where appropriate and dealt them out. And I'm using 3 decks for this. In the middle, for the significator card, which I have, as I indicated, chosen the house, I'm using Pixie's Astounding Lenormand, which is a lovely deck. I'm only just getting into Lenormand, really, but it's based on, as the name suggests, the artwork of Pamela Coleman Smith, and so it looks very similar in its style to the Rider-Waite Smith deck, and there are some really lovely cards in there. I'm not going to do a full walkthrough, but just to give you a sense of how they look. They look really like kind of outtakes from the Rider-Waite Smith deck, and in fact some of the artwork is repurposed. You can see there that's very much taken from the High Priestess and other cards that you will no doubt recognise. Really lovely Lenormand deck. So that's my significator, because my issue is around the house. And for my main reading, I'm using my beloved Spiral Tarot, which I have trimmed and edged. And for my ally card, I'm using my recently acquired Wicca deck, which I really like the artwork of. And yeah, so I'll show you how that all works. So I've chosen the house card, and I've actually also pre-selected the ally card, but I haven't pre-selected these. I've shuffled the deck and dealt the Spiral Tarot cards out just as they are. So so let's just go through and have a look at what we're actually looking at for each of these positions, and you'll see that what I've done is I've actually rearranged them somewhat because I couldn't get them in a line in the way that I had on the bit of paper without it being difficult for you to see them on camera. So this is card number 1, the energy of the obstacle. This is card number 2, what do I need to accept and or attract into my life in this situation. this is card number 3, what do I need to change and release? And this is 4, where do I focus? Card number 5 tells me what helps me to keep showing up in this situation. Card number 6 is what is the hidden blockage that I'm not aware of. 7 is the hidden strength that I'm not aware of in this situation, and then my ally card, which I'll show you in a second. So this is just going to be a very quick canter through to give you an example of how these cards can work together. And one of the things I should have said is that as we work through this spread, one of the things we can do is we can pair the cards up with each other and do a reading in that way. Now, I'll come to that in a second. Normally, if they were in a line and that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and that was 5, 6, 7, 8, you would obviously have 1 beside number 5, and number 2 would be beside number 6, and so on if they were in a line. They're not here. But then what you could do is read them as pairs. So looking at number 1, what is the energy of the obstacle? You could also then at the same time look at number 5, what is the energy that helps me to keep showing up? And with number 2, what do I need to accept and attract? Then you could read that as a pair with number 6 in terms of what is the hidden blockage, etc. So just looking at this spread, one of the things that we could look at is in terms of the energy of the obstacle, definitely something there about duality, two-ness, partnership, and certainly this situation with the house is one that my partner and I are working through in order to achieve our joint ambitions for the house and to support each other through the process. So that feels very appropriate, that this is very much a kind of I'm not on my own in doing this. The energy of the obstacle is that it is a shared obstacle, and it's one in which we are both working together. Also, I think the indication of the yin yang symbol there reminds me that it's an obstacle that changes, and it's not a single thing. It's a constantly changing and developing situation. So that gives me a bit of a starter for 10. In terms of what I need to accept and attract more of, there is something here about community support, enjoyment. One of the things that I am kind of conscious of is that when I'm focused on this issue, it can pull me away from social activity. It can pull me away from enjoyment with friends and just relaxing and chilling out and having a bit of a big old party. So it's reminding me that I perhaps need to accept and attract more of that into my life. Even though we are dealing with this issue, it doesn't mean that everything else has to stop. In terms of what I need to change and release, well, I normally think of the Four of Swords as being a card of rest and retreat, and maybe there is something to link this in the sense that perhaps what I need to change and release is not becoming too isolated, too relaxed, too in repose about this. That this does require head-on active activity, and changing from being slightly inclined to retreat and try and find respite from this situation. Perhaps the situation requires me to just tackle it head on. And where do I need to focus? We've got justice there. So there's something there in terms of making sure that things are done right, making sure things are done in line with proper regulations, which of course is very important for building work. And perhaps also something there about just needing to remind myself to balance. Now there's a lot more I could get out of these cards, but this is just a very quick skim through. What helps me keep showing up? So I've got the Queen of Cups there. Now the Queen of Cups is, if I look at my Myers-Briggs personality, which is INFJ, the Queen of Cups is the card that relates to that. So what helps me keep showing up? I think my kind of I know that I'm able to, even in quite difficult situations, be quite calm and collected and resilient, and to allow myself, even when I'm feeling quite stressed, to maintain awareness of a kind of still, calm centre. I'm not saying I always maintain awareness of that. I certainly lose sight of it at times, but it's there, and that certainly is something that keeps me from showing up. In terms of the hidden blockage, well, that's the King of Cups, and I think one of the things that perhaps indicates to me is that if I'm I'm really being honest in terms of my response to this reading, those cards, obviously, a bit like this one, instantly make me think of my partnership, and I am very conscious that one of the things that I'm aware of in this situation is, as well as my own requirements for the house, being very mindful of my partner's, and sometimes perhaps wondering if they exactly match up, and if they don't, how we can find our way through it. So one hidden blockage could be my assumptions about what others want from this situation, or my over reliance on just what I want at the expense of what others want. So I think there's something there in terms of me exploring with my partner exactly what we both want from this, as we have been doing. So that's a good reminder there. But it might also be an indication to me that from my partner perspective, there is something that is not being said, or that maybe he hasn't been able to say to me about my approach to this. So this would be a good indication for me to, in a very kind of open, non-threatening, non-judgmental way, to kind of say, let's have a conversation about this, and I'd really like to invite you to tell me how you're feeling about all of this. And we do that on a regular basis, but when this kind of thing comes up in a reading, it can be a really good prompt to just dig a bit deeper in a very supportive way. And then hidden strength is the 8 of Wands. Now for me, that is very much about fast forward motion. I love this deck and the way that it shows the wands of them being kind of ejected out of this cloud and flying up into the sky. I think possibly what's there is and bearing in mind that it's hidden, I may not be aware of how quickly and how forcefully I can move things forward when I need to. I know that I can, but one of the stresses I have around this is sometimes feeling a bit like I'm not doing enough, or can't do enough to move things forward quickly enough. And it may well be that this is reminding me that actually I have got more capacity to do that than I think. Or it could also be telling me that the hidden strength is that this is going to move quickly whether I want to or not. This is very much a natural phenomenon, particularly as depicted in this card. And therefore, to some extent, I perhaps need to detach from that outcome and allow that strength to just come through the situation without my interference. And so finally, picking the ally card. Now, as I said, you can either take the same deck you've worked with, take out all the Major Arcana cards, you may have already used some of them, of course, and then either select with the cards face down after you've shuffled them, or go through and pick one face up. You could do that, and you're looking for the archetypal energy that you want to have as an ally in your situation. It's going to help you to remain resilient and strong. Or you can go through an oracle deck and do that, either by pre-selecting a card or by picking it randomly. What I did with this was I went through and pre-selected one because I thought I want to see which card speaks to me about what kind of ally do I want, and it may well be related to the kind of outcome I want in this situation. So for this, I picked this lovely card, which is the Queen of Elfheim, which is about magic and beauty. And the reason I picked this is because I want my home, our home, to be a place of magic and beauty, and it's a reminder to me that that's what I'm working towards, and that the stress and the difficulty of going through this process of carrying out work which may or may not do what we want it to do is worth it, because it's working towards the creation of more magic and beauty in our lives and in our home. And so my ally in this process is going to be the Queen of Elfheim. And the lovely thing about using a deck like this is I'll confess I don't know a great deal about the deck. I haven't had a chance to look at it in detail. I've got the book that goes with it. I'm going to take time to study this card and others, of course, and also to find out a bit more about the Queen of Elfheim. What I do know from my own reading around fairy traditions and so on is that the Queen of Elfheim is not a pushover, and can actually can be a kind of a proud character. And so I'm going to investigate what that characteristic of pride means for me, in terms of, do I need more of it or do I need less of it in this situation, and how might the energy of the Queen of Elfheim help me and assist me in this process. So that's a very quick canter through the overall spread, and just to remind you that what you can do is, if you did lay the cards out as I showed you earlier, and we'll do it in a kind of higgledy-piggledy way just so you can see it. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8. So what you can do, of course, is you can then read them in pairs. So you could read those two together and those two together. So that's the energy of the obstacle and what keeps you showing up, even in the face of that energy. What do you need to accept and attract, and what's the hidden blockage that's either stopping you from doing that, or that if you remove, you might be able to do something different. What do you need to change and release, and what's the hidden strength that will help you to change and release it? Where do you need to focus, and what's the ally that can help you with this focus, but also help you with the whole scenario? So you can read the cards individually, you can read them as a whole, and you can read them in pairs that way. And so hopefully you found this spread useful. If you would like to try it, I'd love to see your videos of you using this spread on an issue that you're dealing with, where you need to muster your reserves of resilience. I'll put all the details below of how to do this spread, as ever. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you want to know more and you want to hear more from this channel, then please do subscribe, and remember to click the bell icon so that you can be sent notifications of future videos. And until then, I'll see you all again very, very soon. Take care, everyone.